Let me say this plainly. If you keep doing what you did last year, you will keep getting what you got last year. A new year does not change your life. A new decision does. 2026 is not asking for your resolutions. It is demanding your reset. Because some of you didn't fail. You just carried the wrong mindset into the wrong season. A new year doesn't change your life. New decisions do. Time itself is neutral. January 1st has no power. A calendar flip has never healed a broken mindset, fixed a lack of discipline, or turned potential into results. The same person who walked into December walks into January unless something internal shifts. That's why so many people feel excited for a moment and frustrated a few weeks later. They expected the year to do what only a decision can do. A decision is not a wish. A decision is not a goal written in a notebook. A decision is a line you draw in your mind that says, this ends here. When a real decision is made, behavior changes automatically. You don't negotiate with it. You don't keep revisiting it. You move differently because you see differently. Most people don't need another year. They need the courage to decide. Indecision is one of the most expensive habits a person can have. It looks harmless, but it slowly drains momentum, confidence, and self-trust. Every time you say, I'll start later, you train yourself to delay your destiny. Every time you say, I'm not ready yet, you reinforce the belief that readiness comes before action, when in reality, action creates readiness. A new year gives you permission to delay. A decision gives you power to move. Decisions are uncomfortable because they force responsibility. Once you decide, you can no longer blame circumstances, people, or timing. You can't hide behind excuses because your choice exposes what you truly want. That's why many people stay stuck at the level of intention. Intention feels safe. Decision feels risky, but growth has always required risk, and progress has always demanded commitment. The quality of your life is directly connected to the quality of the decisions you make daily, not annually. Big outcomes are built on small, repeated decisions. Deciding to wake up when it's uncomfortable, deciding to do the work when no one is watching, deciding to keep going when results are delayed. These decisions don't trend online, they don't feel dramatic, but they compound. And compounding is how ordinary effort turns into extraordinary results. A decision also clarifies identity. When you decide, you answer the question, who am I becoming? You stop acting like someone who hopes and start moving like someone who knows. Your language changes, your standards change, your tolerance for distraction drops. You don't need external pressure because internal clarity creates its own momentum. This is why some people seem disciplined without trying. They already decided who they are. Many people wait for motivation to make decisions, but motivation is a response, not a requirement. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. When you decide and take the first step, energy follows, confidence follows, momentum follows. The mistake is thinking you must feel ready before you move. Readiness is a byproduct of movement. A decision is also an act of self-respect. It tells your future self that you matter enough to choose long-term results over short-term comfort. It tells your past that it no longer controls your direction. When you make a decision, you stop being a passenger in your own life and become the driver. You may not control traffic, weather, or road conditions, but you control the steering wheel. Most people overestimate what a year can do and underestimate what one strong decision can change. One decision can alter habits. Habits alter behavior. Behavior alters outcomes. Outcomes alter identity. Identity alters destiny. It all starts at the moment you stop waiting for time to improve your life and take responsibility for choosing differently. A decision does not guarantee ease. It guarantees alignment. You may still face resistance, delays, and opposition, but now everything you face has meaning because it's connected to a chosen direction. Struggle without decision feels pointless. Struggle after decision feels purposeful. Pain becomes training. Obstacles become instruction. Pressure becomes refinement. If you want this year to look different, sound different, and feel different, it won't be because the calendar changed. It will be because you did. The moment you decide, the year stops being something you go through and starts becoming something you use. And once a real decision is made, going back no longer feels like an option because forward is no longer a suggestion. Resetting is not about fixing what's broken. It's about removing what no longer belongs. Many people assume growth requires adding more goals, more routines, more information. But the truth is that real transformation often begins with subtraction. You cannot move into a new season while carrying the weight of an old one. Resetting demands honesty because you must confront the habits, beliefs, and influences that once served you, but now silently sabotage you. Outdated habits don't announce themselves as problems. They feel familiar, comfortable, justifiable. They show up as routines you defend even when they no longer produce results. What once helped you survive may now be the very thing limiting your progress. Survival habits are not the same as success habits, and if you don't consciously release them, they will keep you operating at a level you've already outgrown. Beliefs are even more dangerous than habits because beliefs shape behavior automatically. If you believe opportunities are scarce, you hesitate. If you believe success requires struggle, you resist ease. If you believe you're behind, you rush and make poor decisions. Many people are not limited by reality. They are limited by interpretations they accepted years ago without questioning. Resetting requires you to audit your thinking and ask, where did this belief come from And is it still true? Some beliefs were installed by people who meant well but didn't know better. Others were formed during moments of failure, embarrassment, or loss. Your mind created rules to protect you, but protection and progress are not the same thing. A reset means recognizing that the version of you who needed those beliefs no longer exists. You don't dishonor your past by updating your thinking. You honor your future by doing so. Influences matter more than most people are willing to admit. You will never rise consistently above the environment you normalize, conversations you tolerate, content you consume, and energy you allow all shape your internal state. Resetting sometimes means distancing yourself from voices that feed doubt, fear, or limitation, even if those voices are familiar. Familiar does not mean healthy. This is where resistance shows up. Letting go feels like loss, even when what you're releasing has been holding you back. The mind prefers known discomfort over unknown improvement. That's why people cling to routines that drain them and relationships that distract them. A reset challenges that instinct. It asks you to trust that what's ahead requires less baggage, not more. Resetting also requires you to stop romanticizing the past. What worked before worked and not now. Growth changes requirements. New levels demand new standards. If you insist on doing things the old way, you're not being loyal, you're being stubborn. The reset happens when you stop asking how things used to be and start asking what this season requires. Mental clutter is one of the most underestimated obstacles to progress. Unresolved decisions, half commitments, and constant overthinking drain energy without producing movement. Resetting means simplifying, fewer priorities, clearer boundaries, stronger no responses. When your mind is clear, action becomes lighter. When action becomes lighter, consistency becomes possible. A reset is not dramatic. It's quiet. It shows up in the choices no one sees. Choosing to rest instead of scrolling, choosing to prepare instead of procrastinate, choosing silence over noise. These decisions don't look impressive, but they rebuild internal order, and order creates momentum. Resetting also exposes excuses you've outgrown. Excuses are often recycled stories that once explained your situation but no longer justify it. At some point, explanations turn into anchors. A reset means taking full ownership of where you are without shame and without denial. Ownership is empowering because it puts control back in your hands. You don't reset by fighting everything at once. You reset by becoming aware. Awareness precedes change. The moment you see clearly, you begin to shift naturally. What drains you becomes obvious. What distracts you loses its grip. What no longer fits starts to feel heavy instead of normal. A true reset realigns you with intention. You stop reacting and start choosing. You stop living on autopilot and start living on assignment. The noise fades, clarity sharpens, and your energy stops leaking into places that don't return value. When the unnecessary is removed, what remains becomes powerful. When the old is cleared out, space is created for strength, focus, and disciplined growth that no longer feels forced, but feels inevitable. A restart is not a sign that you failed. It's proof that you learned. Many people stay stuck not because they can't move forward, but because they're embarrassed to begin again. Pride keeps them tied to systems that no longer work and plans that no longer fit. A restart requires humility, because it means admitting that the old approach reached its limit. But humility is not weakness, it is clarity. Starting again doesn't mean repeating the same steps with more intensity. That's exhaustion, not progress. A restart is about refinement. It's about pausing long enough to ask what actually matters now. What deserves your time? What deserves your focus? What deserves your energy? When you restart correctly, you simplify instead of complicating. You stop trying to prove something and start trying to build something. Many people mistake movement for momentum. They stay busy, but nothing changes. A restart interrupts that cycle. It forces you to slow down, evaluate, and choose deliberately. Speed without direction only takes you faster in the wrong direction. A clean restart replaces urgency with intention and replaces noise with structure. Permission is a powerful element of a restart. You must give yourself permission to let go of the pressure to perform at a level you're no longer aligned with. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to choose differently. You are allowed to release a plan that no longer matches your values or vision. Growth often requires disappointment, disappointing others and disappointing the version of yourself that thought things would turn out differently. Clarity is the foundation of a successful restart. Without clarity, you will restart emotionally but continue acting the same way. Clarity begins with honesty about what worked, what didn't, and why. Not in a judgmental way, but in a factual way. Facts free you. Stories trap you. When you deal with facts, improvement becomes practical instead of emotional. A restart also requires boundaries. You cannot build something new while allowing constant interruptions. Boundaries protect your energy so it can be invested instead of spent. This may mean saying no to opportunities that look good but pull you off course. Not every opportunity is aligned. Some are simply distractions dressed up as progress. Consistency becomes possible only after a restart because now your actions are connected to understanding. You are no longer copying what worked for someone else or following a routine that doesn't fit your life. You build systems that match your reality. Systems reduce reliance on willpower. When the system is right, discipline becomes less about force and more about flow. A restart changes how you view time. You stop rushing to catch up and start building to last. You recognize that shortcuts often create delays. Doing it right once is faster than fixing it repeatedly. This mindset shift allows patience to replace panic and confidence to replace comparison. Restarting also reconnects you to purpose. When effort is disconnected from meaning, burnout is inevitable. A proper restart realigns what you do with why you do it. Purpose doesn't eliminate difficulty, but it gives difficulty direction. When you know why you're building, you don't quit when it gets uncomfortable. You may not feel excited during a restart. Excitement is unpredictable. Commitment is reliable. A restart grounded in commitment survives mood changes, setbacks, and slow days. It's built on decision, not emotion. That's why it lasts. Momentum after a restart feels different. It's quieter, more stable, less reactive. You stop chasing validation and start measuring progress internally. You recognize improvement not by applause, but by peace, clarity, and consistency. That kind of momentum compounds. A restart also redefines success. Success becomes alignment instead of appearance. You stop asking how it looks and start asking how it works. This removes unnecessary pressure and allows you to focus on results that matter. When success is defined correctly, progress feels satisfying instead of stressful. You don't restart because you're behind. You restart because you're serious about building something sustainable, serious about growth that lasts longer than motivation, serious about becoming someone who moves with wisdom instead of impulse. When you restart with intention, every step forward carries weight, every action builds trust with yourself, and every day becomes a deliberate investment in the direction you've chosen. Focus is not just a productivity tool. It is a force that shapes outcomes. Everything meaningful that has ever been built required sustained attention. Talent without focus produces little. Opportunity without focus disappears quickly. Energy without focus turns into noise. When focus is present, effort multiplies. When it's absent, even hard work feels ineffective. Most people don't lack ability, they lack concentration. Their attention is divided across too many priorities, too many opinions, and too many distractions. They attempt to move in several directions at once and wonder why progress feels slow. Focus demands selection. When you choose one direction, you automatically eliminate others. That elimination is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. You cannot give your best to everything and pretending you can only guarantees mediocrity. Focus has a cost. It requires saying no to things that are good but not essential. It requires resisting the urge to react to every notification, every message, and every opportunity. The world is designed to pull your attention outward, to fragment it into pieces that never quite add up to momentum. Protecting your focus is an act of discipline and self-respect. Distraction rarely announces itself as danger. It often shows up as entertainment, information, or urgency. It convinces you that you're staying informed, staying connected, or staying productive, while quietly stealing the depth required for real progress. Shallow attention creates shallow results. Depth is where mastery lives, and depth is only accessible through focus. When focus is clear, decision-making becomes easier. You stop weighing every option because you already know your priority. Clarity removes confusion. Confusion drains energy. A focused mind conserves energy by directing it toward what matters most. This is why people with focus often appear calm under pressure. They are not doing less because they are incapable. They are doing less because they are intentional. Focus also sharpens learning. When your attention is undivided, feedback becomes useful instead of overwhelming. You can see patterns, adjust strategies, and improve faster. Scattered attention misses details and repeats mistakes. Focus shortens the learning curve by increasing awareness. One of the biggest enemies of focus is comparison. Watching how fast others move or how loud their success appears can pull you out of your own lane. Focus requires trust in your process. When you're focused, you measure progress against your standards, not someone else's timeline. Comparison splits attention between building and observing, and divided attention weakens execution. Focus transforms effort into leverage. A small amount of focused work often produces more results than a large amount of distracted effort. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. Focused consistency compounds. Distracted intensity burns out. When you apply attention in the same direction over time, momentum becomes inevitable. Another threat to focus is overcommitment. Saying yes too often feels productive in the moment but becomes costly later. Every commitment demands attention. When attention is spread too thin, nothing receives the depth required to grow. Focus improves when commitments are aligned with capacity. Fewer commitments executed well outperform many commitments executed poorly. Focus also affects identity. What you consistently focus on shapes how you see yourself. If your attention is constantly pulled toward problems, you begin to identify as overwhelmed. If it's directed towards solutions, you begin to see yourself as capable. Attention trains perception, and perception influences behavior. A focused life feels different. There is less noise and more clarity, less urgency and more purpose. You move with intention instead of reaction. You stop asking what to do next because your direction is already set. This creates confidence, not because everything is certain, but because your attention is anchored. Focus doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means choosing what deserves your response. Not everything requires your reaction. Not every issue needs your energy. When focus is strong, You become selective about where you invest your time and emotional capacity. This selectivity preserves strength. Focus is built, not found. It's trained through repeated choices, choosing to finish what you start, choosing to stay present in the task at hand, choosing depth over distraction, clarity over chaos, and purpose over impulse. Over time, these choices rewire how you operate. Focus stops being something you try to do and becomes how you live. When focus is present, progress accelerates naturally. You stop chasing results and start creating them. Your actions align, your energy stabilizes, and your outcomes reflect the power of sustained attention applied in one clear direction. Distraction is more expensive than failure because failure teaches while distraction delays. When you fail, you gain feedback. You learn what doesn't work. You adjust. But when you're distracted, nothing is clear enough to evaluate. You don't fail forward, you drift sideways. Time passes, energy drains, and potential quietly erodes without ever being tested. Failure has boundaries. It happens in a moment, in a season, around a specific attempt. Distraction has no edges. It seeps into everything. It fragments attention, weakens discipline, and stretches simple tasks into exhausting experiences. You can recover from a mistake faster than you can recover from months of unfocused effort. Failure hurts once. Distraction charges you daily. Distraction creates the illusion of activity. You feel busy, involved, and occupied, but very little is completed at a meaningful level. You start many things and finish almost nothing. This constant switching trains the brain to avoid depth. Depth requires patience. Distraction rewards impulse. Over time, the mind becomes uncomfortable with stillness and resistant to sustained effort. One of the most dangerous aspects of distraction is that it feels harmless, checking one more message, watching one more video, saying yes to one more request. None of these choices seem significant on their own, but collectively they steal the focus required for progress. Distraction doesn't destroy your goals in dramatic ways. It dissolves them quietly through neglect. Failure, on the other hand, demands attention. It forces reflection. It pushes you to ask hard questions. That's why people who fail and stay focused often succeed later. They stay in the process long enough to grow. Distracted people rarely stay long enough anywhere to build competence. They keep restarting without learning. Distraction also damages self-trust. When you repeatedly promise yourself focus and deliver avoidance, confidence erodes. You begin to doubt your ability to follow through. This doubt doesn't come from lack of talent. It comes from lack of presence. Each distracted moment is a small breach of integrity with yourself. Over time, those breaches accumulate. Another hidden cost of distraction is emotional fatigue. Constantly shifting attention creates mental clutter. Your mind never fully rests because it never fully engages. You carry unfinished thoughts, unresolved tasks, and half-made decisions everywhere you go. This creates a background stress that feels like pressure without a clear source. Focus relieves this pressure by creating closure. Distraction also weakens priorities. When everything has your attention, nothing truly matters. Urgent replaces important. Loud replaces meaningful. You begin responding instead of creating. This reactive mode feels necessary, but it keeps you stuck in maintenance instead of progress. You spend your energy keeping up rather than moving forward. Failure can be specific. Distraction is systemic. It affects how you work, how you think, and how you relate to time. It shortens attention spans and increases impatience. Long-term goals start to feel unrealistic, not because they are, but because distraction has trained you to expect immediate stimulation. The ability to wait, build, and compound weakens. Distraction also disguises fear. Sometimes it's easier to stay busy than to face the discomfort of full commitment. Full focus means full responsibility. If you give something your best and it doesn't work, you must confront that reality. Distraction provides an escape. You can always say you would have succeeded if you had focused, but that statement never produces results. The cost of distraction shows up later, in missed opportunities, in unrealized potential, in the quiet frustration of knowing you were capable of more. These costs are harder to measure than a failed attempt, but they are heavier. Failure can be redeemed. Lost focus often goes unnoticed until time has already passed. Focus concentrates effort. Distraction disperses it. Concentrated effort compounds. Dispersed effort evaporates. This is why two people with equal ability can end up in very different places. One protects attention. The other gives it away freely. The difference isn't intelligence or luck. It's stewardship of focus. Distraction trains you to avoid resistance. Focus trains you to move through it. Growth lives on the other side of resistance. If distraction becomes your default response to discomfort, progress slows to a crawl. Failure would have pushed you forward. Distraction keeps you circling. When attention is constantly divided, even success feels unsatisfying. You don't fully experience wins because your mind is already elsewhere. Focus allows presence. Presence allows fulfillment. Without focus, achievements feel hollow and incomplete. Distraction is not a personality trait. It's a habit reinforced by environment and choice. Habits can be changed, but only when their true cost is acknowledged. Not just lost time, but lost clarity. Not just delayed goals, but weakened identity. When distraction is tolerated, it becomes normal. When it becomes normal, excellence feels unreachable. Progress with precision is the difference between movement and momentum. Many people mistake business for progress. They fill their days with activity checklists and constant motion, believing that effort alone will produce results. The truth is that effort without strategy is wasted energy. Precision directs energy where it counts, multiplies results, and transforms ordinary work into extraordinary outcomes. Without it, even the hardest work may lead only to exhaustion and frustration. Precision begins with clarity. You cannot hit a target you cannot see. Too often, people attempt to improve without defining what improvement looks like. They chase vague goals, hoping that activity will eventually create results. Clarity eliminates guesswork. When you are precise, you know exactly what you are aiming for, and every action becomes a step toward that target. Precision turns random effort into focused execution. Prioritization is essential for precision. Not all tasks carry equal weight. Many people spend most of their time on low-impact activities because they feel urgent or easy, while neglecting high-impact actions that truly drive results. Precision demands ruthless discernment. It requires identifying what matters most and committing your time, attention, and resources to those things alone. This is how small actions compound into significant achievements. Precision also demands awareness of timing. Action at the wrong moment produces little, but action at the right moment produces exponential results. Timing is not always intuitive. It requires observation, planning, and sometimes restraint. Knowing when to move and when to wait is part of precision. It separates reactive effort from intentional progress. Acting with precision means avoiding unnecessary struggle while still maintaining momentum. Systems and processes are the tools of precise progress. Random effort leads to repetition. Mistakes and wasted energy. Systems allow you to replicate successful actions consistently. Processes turn strategy into routine without sacrificing quality. Precision is less about working harder and more about creating mechanisms that allow focus and consistency to drive results. When systems are aligned, results become predictable and effort becomes more productive. Measurement is another component of precision. You cannot improve what you do not evaluate. Many people work diligently yet remain unaware of whether their actions are producing results. Precision requires metrics, feedback loops, and honest assessment. You track progress, analyze patterns, and adjust accordingly. This ensures that energy is not lost on what doesn't work and that every action moves you closer to your goal. Precision reduces wasted motion. Every decision, every action, every interaction is intentional. It removes unnecessary detours and eliminates activities that do not serve the desired outcome. People who lack precision often find themselves exhausted but unfulfilled because they have been busy with distractions and trivialities. Focused precision creates energy efficiency and preserves stamina for what truly matters. Focus and precision are inseparable. Focus channels your attention and precision channels your energy. Together, they create compounding results. Precision prevents scatter and focus ensures consistency. Without focus, precision is wasted on sporadic effort. Without precision, focus lacks direction. The combination turns small, disciplined actions into significant outcomes over time. Precision also requires self-discipline. It demands the ability to resist immediate gratification in favor of long-term gain. You make choices not based on comfort, popularity, or trend, but on what aligns with your strategy. This may involve saying no repeatedly, cutting distractions, and maintaining standards even when it's inconvenient. Discipline sustains precision, making it more than a temporary tactic and turning it into a lifestyle. The power of precise progress lies in its predictability. When actions are deliberate and aligned, outcomes become more reliable. You can forecast results because your process eliminates randomness. This predictability builds confidence. Confidence fuels further action, creating a cycle of consistent achievement. Momentum is no longer accidental. It is engineered through careful, intentional work. Precision also protects against overextension. Many people try to do too much at once, thinking multitasking equals productivity. Precision teaches selectivity. It emphasizes depth over breadth. Completing fewer high-impact actions consistently produces far greater results than spreading effort across many low-impact tasks. Precision sharpens judgment and teaches the value of concentrated energy. Every small decision matters in precise progress. What you choose to do, how you do it, and when you do it compounds over time. Ordinary actions, when executed with exactness, accumulate into extraordinary outcomes. Precision is the bridge between potential and achievement. It transforms raw talent, energy, and intention into tangible results. Without it, effort remains scattered, progress remains slow, and results remain inconsistent. Precision is not perfection. It is intentionality in action. It is the art of aligning decisions, energy, and focus toward measurable results. It eliminates randomness, magnifies consistency, and converts ordinary work into compounding success. By applying progress with precision, small efforts no longer get lost in noise. Every step becomes deliberate, every action becomes meaningful, and growth becomes inevitable.